My organization, the International Development Law Organization, was born out of the realization of the capacity gap in developing countries on legal issues. It was born in 1983 as IDLI, the International Development Law Institute, and then in 1988 became an intergovernmental organization by treaty because governments recognized the importance of investing in law in order to promote development. And that has, of course, now been codified, if I may say so, not legally codified, but codified in terms of policy in SDG 16 of this 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Law is therefore a critical ingredient for successful trade and investment. And our starting point is really from there. As an organization that works on the ground in a number of LDCs around the world, we have seen the imbalance between large international investors on the one hand and governments or private sector in those countries on the other. And whether it is in the context of the extractive industries in sub-Saharan Africa or in relation to arbitral proceedings, for example, in South Asia, we have seen a limited number of government lawyers sit across the table from veritable armies of experts, well-resourced international law firms on the other side. And therefore, there is clearly an imbalance of arms in these situations. Now, let me say, what are we really talking about? We're actually talking about 47 least developed countries which have a combined population of almost 1 billion people and comprise some of the poorest and most vulnerable populations of the world. So this is where the need is greatest. The demand is very high, but the supply is absent. So what we are trying to do here is, in a way, come in with ideas of how we can meet that supply. LDCs possess tremendous potential in terms of human resources, in terms of natural resources. But despite these challenges, and despite the fact that they have made progress, there could be so much more done if we could unlock and overcome those barriers. Now, I'm not saying that law alone is the answer to the problems of trade and investment in the LDCs. Indeed, there are many, many challenges that we are aware of on the ground, that the governments themselves are aware of. But certainly, law can play a very important role here. Let me now say, what is it that we are doing here today that is, in my view, rather innovative? First, I think this is a public-private partnership. And that is extremely important to point out that what we are trying to do here is to harness the services of international lawyers, of experts from trade, investment, and other technical areas to provide support to the LDCs on a low-cost or no-cost basis, pro bono services or reduced fee basis services, to mobilize a pool of experts. And here I would like to acknowledge the support that our proposal has received already from Baker and McKinsey, and there are many others that I have seen earlier on a list, and we would like to see that list grow longer. So I look forward to talking to the International Chamber of Commerce and others. This has to be truly a public-private partnership. The second feature of this, of course, is that this is a bespoke service tailored to meet the specific needs of LDCs. LDCs are a diverse group. The legal challenges, the development challenges are different. And for that reason, this program will aim to work with the program countries, with the recipient countries and other entities in those countries to design contextually relevant and locally owned responses rather than promoting a cut and paste approach based on international best practice. As an organization that works around the world, has worked in some 85 developing countries in this area, we know that the cookie-cutter approach may be very convenient, but does not produce the results. The third point I do want to emphasize, and I've heard a number of government delegations mention, is that we must not, and we will not, supplant national capacity. We will not supplant national capacity, but seek to build it. That has to be a key goal, working with the countries together to strengthen institutions, to strengthen their own capacity, to strengthen the legal professions. As a lawyer, I know legal problems don't disappear fast. They continue, and so if this program is to be sustainable, then it must both meet immediate needs, but at the same time also invest for the longer term through capacity development. And let me say the final point that I want to make. As you know, I'm a passionate advocate for women's rights, and we all know that just as a bird needs 2 wings to fly, you need to invest on women as well as men when it comes to business, trade, economic development, and therefore this program intends to pay particular attention to supporting businesses owned by women as well as individuals from other marginalized and excluded groups. We will have challenges, but I guess you can never win anything unless you are ready to confront the challenges. There is a different environment today for development, where trade and investment are at the heart of development policy now in a way in which they were not in the 1980s. Secondly, the LDCs themselves are acutely aware of the need to build legal capacity, to acknowledge the importance of legal capacity. And thirdly, there is much stronger commitment from the private sector today. This is not a conflict of interest. This is actually a synergy of interests that we see here. And finally, I would say the most important thing is the development framework today. The policy framework of development today is the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And I hope that in this new environment, we will succeed in this program. Of course, success will depend on all of us working together. This is a partnership, not just of the High Representative's Office and IDLO. It is a partnership involving the private sector organizations, the law firms, the management consultancies, other business groups that want to join it. It is also a partnership with the LDCs themselves. So in that sense, this is a multilateral private sector and public sector government partnership that we are aiming. I think we have made a good start with this, but it is only the start. There will be a lot of discussions, conversations that we will have with many of you here and many of you who are not in the room here, but who will very soon hear from us, because this is a long journey on which we are embarking. And finally, let me end by just saying what the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda is all about. It is about leaving no one behind. The LDCs cannot be left behind in this. We have to make this journey together.